the Grizzlies, I just can't get over the fact they're number 2 for you because they're led by proven durable player John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., who his offensive limitations sometimes can really piss you off. The Grizzlies are banking on their young players taking steps forward, that being Jalen Wells, and the signing of Ty Jerome was solid. It was good.
It was better than that.
Does Ty Jerome and KCP made me think, oh, you now replace Desmond Bane's impact? No, it doesn't.
You're not just replacing Desmond Bane with KCP and that's it. It's KCP, Ty Jerome, Cedric Coward, who was acquired to that draft pick was acquired in the Magic trade to eventually trade up and get Coward. So those are 3 guys you got in return for Desmond Bane, not to mention all the first-round picks you have. You own the number 1 asset in the entire NBA this season. It is the Phoenix Suns' first-round draft pick next year. You can make an argument that Atlanta has it and the Pelicans, but for whatever reason, you're pretty high on the Pels. So I think the Grizzlies have the number 1 asset too. What do they do with that potentially at the deadline as well? Yes, you can make ha-ha jokes about Ja Morant's health, but when you look at Scottie Pippen Jr., this is a guy who dropped damn near 30 in the playoffs last year. You look at Ty Jerome. If Ja Morant misses 30 games, I feel good about Scottie Pippen starting them. I feel good about still having Ty Jerome coming off the bench despite Ja Morant missing those games. I feel good about Jalen Wells in his second year. I feel good about Cedric Coward being the steal of the NBA draft. That's why I have this team just winning 1 or 2 more games than the San Antonio Spurs, not much higher, but 46-36, finishing second in this division.
So if Ja gets hurt, the starting lineup of Ty Jerome, KCP, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Zach Edey is what's going to lift the Grizzlies.
It's Scottie Pippen and Ty Jerome would come off the bench, but no, I think that can get you by for a week. I'm saying that they are more locked and loaded. When one of those big 3 went down last year, and this is the reason they made the trade, when Ja, Dez, or Jaren was not playing, they were horrific because they were playing G League players. They were playing Vince Williams and G.G. Jackson, who have not been comparable on this roster, not to mention if they take a leap this year. Now they actually have depth. In this NBA, it's not about your 3 best guys anymore, Joel. It's about having depth, and we saw that with the Indiana Pacers throughout their playoff run.
So why isn't that same logic used for the Mavericks? Because they have more depth than the Memphis Grizzlies.
Because the Mavericks do not have a viable point guard. They don't have one.
I still would rather have
the Grizzlies have 3.
I'd rather have the duo of Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag than John JJJ.
I would not. And especially I'm looking at Anthony Davis's health compared to Ja. I trust Ja's health more than Anthony Davis's health at this point in his career.
How?
Because Ja played 50 games last year.
Anthony Davis has been more healthy than Ja.
Ja played 50 games last year.
50 games is the bar?
It's whenever talking about arguing his health over Anthony Davis's health, yeah, that's the bar. Bro.
AD played 51 games last year.
Okay, and what are we talking about as he's getting later in his career? The fit with Cooper Flag in itself is clunky. At least Ja Morant next to Jaren Jackson makes sense.
I don't even know if it makes that much sense because they are not even pick and roll partners. It's not even like they feed each other on offense that much. They complement each other's skill sets. Ja Morant in the pick and roll is not usually running that with Jaren Jackson Jr.
The one thing I will give you whenever it comes to this argument is Tomas Isolo's record. I know they had a hellacious schedule to finish out the season, and obviously he coached in the playoffs. That was not fair to throw him in that fire. If you're going to fire Taylor Jenkins, they should have done it this summer. I vehemently disagree with how they went about that. But that is the thing that can crash and burn. It's not going to be that they don't have that Desmond Bane is gone. Desmond Bane was a fantastic player, but some of the national media's lies, it's like I heard that he was a great defender. I didn't see that in the playoffs. You mentioned Jaren Jackson being swallowed up by Alex Caruso. Desmond Bane was a number 1 guard option. I didn't see him do anything in the playoffs. That's when they moved off. They're valuing depth over having him as a 3rd option.
I mean, I understand, but I think the depth, although better than last year, you're still losing an all-star caliber player to the team, and that's going to be a huge blow. Ty Jerome, last time I checked, was pretty bad in the playoffs too. In the second round.
We're talking about regular season record, Joel.
Yeah, I know, but you mentioned Desmond Bane's playoffs. That's what you said, right? You mentioned his playoffs, so that's why I brought Ty Jerome's playoffs, because he was bad in the playoffs. I just think the Memphis Grizzlies, right now, just the vibes of the team, feels like they're kind of on the decline. You need magic to happen again. You need Ja Morant to revert back to the best possible version of Ja Morant to uplift this team. And all of the good things that you're mentioning to me about the Grizzlies, the one thing that stands out are things that are not currently on this roster are going to be on the floor this season. There are things later like assets, the Suns pick. Yeah, that's why I think the Grizzlies are in a good position to pivot and rebuild. But I do feel like overall they are trending in that direction more so than they're trending in the direction of competing and shocking the West.
I don't see them shocking anything. I have them finishing eighth in the Western Conference with 46 wins. I just have them 2 wins ahead of the Spurs. That what I'm saying is not bold, and it's not I have them as a Western Conference contender. That's simply not true. I'm just making the argument they can win 46 games and finish second in this division.
I see less than that. I see less than that. I think that if you're being fair, you have to bake in injuries for the Grizzlies too. You can't just say you're baking it in for the Mavericks and the Pelicans, but you're not baking it in for the Grizzlies. Because if Ja misses time with no Bane now and no Ja, 30 games is a lot. 30 that's the number you used earlier. 30 games without Ja, I'm thinking you're out the play-in. You're probably at the bottom of the play-in if that happens.
And I concede that. And that is a bet I'm willing to take. I cannot argue about Ja's health, but what I will argue is that I believe in his health more than Anthony Davis's health and Zion Williamson's health. And that is what we are talking about division-wise here. I believe in Ja's health over Zion and Anthony Davis, and that's a bet I'm willing to take.
I disagree with the Anthony Davis part. I can't say nothing about Zion. Zion has not been healthy.
Okay.
But no, yeah, I just this is how I feel about the Grizzlies. My record for them is actually where you had the Mavericks. I think the Grizzlies are a 40-win team. That's how I feel about them.
So you're taking the under on 40.5 win total. That's what you're telling me.
That's their win total?
Yeah, their win total is 40.5.
Yeah, I'll go slightly under at 40 exactly.
That is blasphemy. So one more time. The five I have finishing in this division, the Rockets, 55 wins, Grizzlies second, 46 wins, Spurs, 44, Mavericks, 40, and then the Pelicans, huge drop off at the end, 25 wins. Go ahead with yours.
I have the Rockets at 56 wins. I have the Spurs at 45. I have the Mavericks at 44. I have the Grizzlies at 40, and I have the Pelicans at 35.